The 1970s witnessed a wave of horror films so shocking that they were completely banned in the United States. Disturbing scenes like a man eating human feces in Salò, or the 120 Days of Sodom, or a girl possessed by a demon twisting her head 180 degrees in The Exorcist terrified audiences worldwide and forced censorship boards to intervene, many still banned today. The question is, do you have the courage to watch all 15 of these films? 15. Salò, or the 120 Days of Sodom. Pier Paolo Pasolini's final film tells the story of the Republic of Salò, a puppet state established by Nazi Germany at the end of World War II. The film follows four powerful men, a bishop, a duke, a judge, and a bank president who kidnap a group of teenagers to torture, abuse, and humiliate them in an isolated mansion. Beneath its perverse exterior, Salò is a cold indictment of absolute corruption of power. After the film, some actors recounted that the torture, abuse, and experiments staged by Pasolini caused both physical and mental trauma. Scenes were filmed in confined spaces with dozens of people present at the same time, creating a suffocating and tense atmosphere. Actress Hélène Serger described the experience as abnormal, a horrifying psychological ordeal. The set design and cinematography were handled with particular cruelty by Pasolini. He demanded perfect symmetrical compositions, phallic props, and paintings previously banned by the fascist regime, all arranged to highlight the inhumanity and coldness of the rulers. Every frame was staged like a ritual where humans ceased to be individuals and became mere objects in the game of power. Upon its release in Italy at the end of 1975, just weeks after Pasolini's mysterious assassination, Salò caused an immediate shock. The film was initially approved on December 23, 1975, but just 3 weeks later, the Italian government revoked its license and banned it entirely, claiming the film offended public morality. In the UK, the BBFC outright refused certification, so the film was only screened secretly in underground film clubs in Soho. An uncut copy was once seized by police during a raid in 1977. It was not until 2000 that Salò was officially released in the UK. In Australia, the film went through a cycle of banning, unbanning, and rebanning for decades. After being banned in 1976, it was allowed release again in 1993 with an R18+ rating. But a few years later, it was withdrawn for extremely offensive and shocking imagery. Similar restrictions occurred in New Zealand, Canada, and many European countries. Even when re-released, Salò remained strictly limited to art house theatres and film archives. 14. The Last House on the Left. The Last House on the Left is Wes Craven's directorial debut horror film. The story follows two teenage girls who are kidnapped, tortured, and brutally murdered by a gang, only for the perpetrators to inadvertently take refuge in the victim's parents' home. Upon discovering the truth, the parents plan a bloody revenge, taking viewers from horror to cold satisfaction. During filming, Sandra Peabody playing Mari recounted that she cried multiple times on set due to the emotional pressure of the torture scenes. Some horrifying sequences were filmed continuously for hours, and the director encouraged male actors to react genuinely to create a more realistic atmosphere. Audience reactions at the time were extreme. Many left the theatre mid-screening, some vomited, and others fainted from the sheer shock of the violent scenes. Some US theatres even edited out the most disturbing moments, prompting Craven to complain that every returning print was missing a segment. Projectionists sometimes stopped or fast-forwarded the film when the grotesque scenes lasted too long. In the UK, the BBFC refused certification for theatrical release in 1974 due to the inciting content. When it appeared on video in the 1980s, The Last House on the Left was classified among the video nasties films deemed harmful and confiscated entirely. In Australia, the film was banned for many years, while in New Zealand, the video was prohibited until the late 1990s. Only in the early 2000s were uncut versions allowed rated R18. Craven only gained recognition in the 1980s when the film was rescreened. 13. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Tobe Hooper's low-budget horror film tells the story of a group of teenagers who fall prey to a murderous family in Texas, led by Leatherface wielding a chainsaw. The story is presented as a terrifying documentary, convincing audiences at the time that the events were real. However, what made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre legendary was not just the on-screen fear, but the real horror behind the scenes. The crew worked in nearly torturous conditions. Filming took place in over 130 degrees of heat in an old, stuffy, poorly ventilated farmhouse. Real food and meat props went bad fake blood, fermented in the air, mixing with the smells of sweat smoke and animal carcasses, causing many actors to vomit or leave the set to breathe. The infamous dinner scene where Sally is tortured while dining with the deranged family was filmed over nearly 26 continuous hours in the stifling environment, and Marilyn Burns, the lead actress, actually fainted on set. Leatherface, played by Gunnar Hansen, also endured almost equally harsh conditions. He wore a single costume throughout filming for continuity, which was never washed. It absorbed sweat, fake blood, and foul odours to the point that no one dared approach him. In one particular scene, when the fake blood tubing clogged, the director used real blood from a cut on Marilyn Burns' finger to complete the shot. Upon completion, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre faced censorship almost everywhere. In the UK, the BBFC refused certification in 1975, citing continuous and unacceptable terror and menace. Some local boards allowed screenings secretly, but most theatres had to withdraw it. In Australia, the film was denied classification and banned outright for many years. In West Germany, Sweden, Norway, Finland and Singapore, it was banned or heavily cut for extreme violence and inhumanity. Even in the US, it was shown only in select independent theatres because major chains refused to screen it, fearing audience backlash. Despite bans and boycotts, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre became a cultural phenomenon. Made for about $140,000, it grossed over $30 million worldwide, paving the way for the modern horror genre. 12. A Clockwork Orange.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the 18th episode of Analyzing Evil.
Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange, released in 1971, is based on Anthony Burgess's novel of the same name. The film follows Alex DeLarge, an intelligent but violent teenager, and his droogs as they spread terror through assaults and rapes for fun. After being caught, Alex becomes part of a psychological reform program, leaving him unable to commit or even think of violent acts. While hailed as a bold and pioneering cinematic masterpiece, A Clockwork Orange became one of the most banned and controversial films of the 20th century. After its release, the UK saw numerous violent incidents allegedly inspired by the film, prompting widespread criticism. Concerned for his family's safety, Kubrick requested Warner Bros. Withdraw the film from UK theatres in 1973, effectively removing it from his homeland for over 25 years. In countries such as Ireland, Brazil and Singapore, the film was also banned or heavily cut due to its socially disruptive content. Only after Kubrick's death in 1999 did A Clockwork Orange return worldwide in its original form. Behind the scenes, the film also had harrowing stories. Malcolm McDowell, playing Alex, endured real harm during filming. In the iconic Ludovico technique scene, when his eyes were forced open to watch violent footage, McDowell's eyelids were clamped with actual medical instruments, scratching his corneas and temporarily blinding one eye. The eye drops used were administered by a real ophthalmologist Kubrick hired for minimal safety. Another moment when Alex sings Singin' in the Rain while assaulting someone was entirely improvised. Kubrick felt the initial take lacked energy, allowing McDowell to perform freely. The result, singing and dancing amid brutal violence, created a chilling contrast between joy and crime. Kubrick liked it so much, he immediately bought the song rights to keep the scene, making it one of the most haunting images in film history. Additionally, the white costume with a bowler hat and codpiece became iconic from McDowell's spontaneous idea. He suggested using items he had in his car, including tight pants and shiny boots. Kubrick immediately recognized the aesthetic potential and turned it into a symbol both pure and perverse. McDowell later recounted that working with Kubrick was both wonderful and torturous. He broke several ribs in a beating scene and was nearly exhausted due to Kubrick's obsessive perfectionism, often requiring dozens of takes for the right look or breath. Yet he admitted these hardships contributed to his legendary performance. Have you ever felt fear or fascination toward Alex DeLarge? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 11. Deep Throat. The title alone gives a clue as to how controversial this film was due to its explicit content. It tells the story of Linda, a woman who discovers she cannot reach orgasm until her doctor reveals that her pleasure center is located in her throat. Behind the glamour, however, lies a dark story. Lead actress Linda Lovelace later revealed that in her early 20s, she was coerced into participating under pressure and violence from her boyfriend manager, Chuck Traynor. Lovelace stated she had no control over her role and that what audiences saw on screen was the result of coercion, not consent. Actor Harry Reams also became the centre of an unprecedented legal case. He was federally prosecuted for conspiring to distribute obscene material across state lines, becoming the first actor in US history charged simply for appearing in an adult film. Even the FBI intervened, confiscating prints, questioning crew, and attempting to stop distribution. The film was banned in at least 23 US states, where authorities deemed it obscene and harmful to the public. Theatre owners were fined distributors, prosecuted, and many private screenings had to be held secretly in small theatres in New York or Los Angeles. In the UK, the BBFC also banned Deep Throat, declaring it far too obscene for public exhibition. It was not until 2000 that the film received an R18 rating, allowing legal sale in adult stores only. 10. Caligula. Caligula is considered one of the most infamous and controversial films of all time, chronicling the life of the Roman Emperor Caligula, a man descending into a spiral of power lust and violence. From the very beginning of production, Caligula was a chaotic mess. Director Tinto Brass and screenwriter Gore Vidal clashed intensely with producer Bob Guccione, who wanted to turn the film into a penthouse on film, a massive adult entertainment spectacle. After Brass completed his cut, Guccione secretly filmed additional hardcore scenes with adult film actors and inserted them into the movie without informing the director or lead cast. Brass was furious, demanding his name be removed from the project, while Vidal accused Guccione of betraying cinematic art. One of the most bizarre aspects of Caligula was the use of real childbirth scenes. According to behind-the-scenes accounts, Tinto Brass invited pregnant women to the set to naturally capture Caesonia giving birth to her daughter Drusilla, instead of using special effects. Guccione later requested additional simulated sex scenes and even at times demanded reenactments of ancient Roman ritual sacrifices of the flesh. The explicit nature of these shoots forced some crew members to leave the set. Tensions also escalated between Malcolm McDowell, playing Caligula, and the crew. McDowell described the filming as a true nightmare. He said the script changed daily. The director and producer argued on set, and many supporting actors were either drunk or using drugs. Helen Mirren, portraying Caesonia, recalled, "No one knew what we would be filming the next day. It was like a Roman orgy even behind the camera." Upon completion, Caligula became a nightmare for censors worldwide. In Italy, the original cut was confiscated and banned for being obscene and offensive to decency. In the UK, when the BBFC reviewed the film, it was seized by Customs and Excise under the Obscene Publications Act. Although a heavily cut version received an X rating, many local boards, including Cardiff, Portsmouth and Blackpool, still refused screening. Australia, New Zealand and Canada also banned the original. Only censored versions were shown with an R18+ rating. In the US, the film was released in an uncut form to avoid an X rating, but many theatres refused to screen it due to fear of public backlash. The distributor promoted the film with the tagline, "What they couldn't show you before, now you'll see." However, Caligula was quickly banned in many states and only circulated through underground screenings or private collectors. Mainstream filmmakers remained wary of the film for decades. Many actors, particularly Annika di Lorenzo Messalina, later revealed they were forced to perform explicit scenes, even suing the producer for harassment and abuse. Only much later, when censorship standards relaxed, did uncut versions appear. By 2008, even previously banned scenes were approved with an 18+ certificate. 9. Straw Dogs. Upon its release in 1971, Sam Peckinpah's Straw Dogs enraged audiences worldwide. The film tells the story of David Sumner, an American scholar, and his wife Amy, who moved to the English countryside for a peaceful life. But when harassed and humiliated by local villagers, they quickly spiral into a tense, violent night that leaves no one unscathed. What made Straw Dogs most notorious and widely condemned was the harrowing rape scene in the middle of the film, one of the most controversial in American cinema history. Peckinpah intentionally constructed the scene with moral ambiguity. Amy initially resists, then seems to experience the moments of acceptance before violently struggling when assaulted by a second attacker. The interplay between fear, pleasure and pain led many critics to accuse the film of promoting the dangerous misconception that women could welcome sexual violence. The behind-the-scenes story of Straw Dogs was equally infamous. Before filming, Peckinpah required Dustin Hoffman and Susan George, the two leads, to live together for 2 weeks with screenwriter David Zelig Goodman. The purpose was for them to clash naturally, producing real conflict to translate onto the screen. Some of the intense dialogue and spontaneous reactions during this period were incorporated directly into the script, making David and Amy's relationship in the film uncomfortably authentic and complex. Not everyone could endure Peckinpah's ruthless directing style. Susan George admitted she left the set when the director refused to clarify how he intended to shoot the controversial rape scene. When Peckinpah finally revealed it would involve 2 attackers and nudity, George felt mentally terrorized rather than guided. "I wasn't ready for that," she said before leaving the set. Peckinpah then had to spend time convincing her to return. Shockingly, he often applied psychological pressure on George, deliberately making her anxious, angry, or fearful to capture genuine emotion on camera. With its shocking content, audience reactions were extreme. At the premiere, many walked out midway due to the on-screen violence and sexual content. Those who stayed yelled and cheered when David fought back against the attackers, creating a chaotic atmosphere of revulsion and exhilaration. To secure release, the film had to navigate censorship. The US version was cut to avoid an X rating, while in the UK, it was deemed too dangerous for theatrical screening. 8. The Exorcist. William Friedkin's classic horror film tells the story of a young girl possessed by a demon and 2 priests attempting an exorcism. The film's violent scenes, profanity and spiritual terror shocked audiences. From the first day of shooting, The Exorcist earned a reputation as a truly cursed film. On set, a series of bizarre accidents occurred. A crew member lost a finger, a lighting technician was seriously injured, and a major fire destroyed almost the entire McNeil house set, except for Regan's room where exorcisms were filmed. Such coincidences led many to believe the film was genuinely cursed. Friedkin admitted that the atmosphere on set was as heavy as a haunted church, and he even invited a priest to bless the crew for spiritual reassurance. Ellen Burstyn playing the mother was among the hardest hit. In one scene, when possessed, Regan pushed her. The safety cable was pulled too forcefully, causing Burstyn to fall and suffer permanent spinal injuries. Her screams in the scene are real, and Friedkin, notorious for pursuing cinematic truth, kept the scene in the final cut. Linda Blair, playing Regan, also endured pain. In the scene where her character is violently jerked on the bed, a securing strap slipped, injuring her spine permanently. Accidents and deaths did not end there. Actors Jack McGowan and Vasiliki Maliaros, playing Burke Dennings and Father Karras's mother, respectively died while post-production was still underway. Some crew members' family members also passed away during this period, reinforcing the belief that the film was cursed. Yet the true phenomenon of The Exorcist came from audience reactions. In 1973, screenings many fainted, vomited, or ran out of theatres. Medical personnel were stationed inside theatres, and churches across the US reported a spike in confessions. In some areas, police had to intervene to disperse unruly crowds. The film became a cultural phenomenon, simultaneously condemned as evil and praised as the greatest horror film of the century. This intensity also led to bans and strict censorship in many countries. In places like Wales, local authorities pressured regional boards. In the UK, the film received an X rating, with multiple local boards banning it as dangerous for the public. By the 1980s, when home video emerged, The Exorcist was withdrawn from the market, entirely unavailable for sale or rental until 1999. In Malaysia, Singapore and many Islamic countries, it remains permanently banned for religious reasons. Only after its re-release in 1998 did the UK Board of Film Classification relent. Yet censorship efforts were powerless against its massive appeal. The film grossed over $400 million, becoming the highest-grossing horror film ever. What do you think about The Exorcist? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 7. Tropic of Cancer. More shocking than any words you have ever heard. Tropic of Cancer, adapted from Henry Miller's novel of the same name, had been banned in the US for 30 years for being too explicit. The film follows Henry, a poor American writer living in Paris, wandering between cafes, brothels, and a damp rented room, struggling with hunger while contemplating art, sex, and absolute human freedom. Interestingly, the film itself began as a wager. According to producer Robert Evans' memoir, The Kid Stays in the Picture, he and Henry Miller joked that no one would dare adapt this book into a movie. Evans lost the bet, and Tropic of Cancer was born. Filming took place entirely in Paris, with a near-documentary-style handheld camera, natural lighting, and Henry portrayed as passionate, raw, and disdainful of the world around him. Paramount even leveraged public opposition as marketing, inviting critics, scholars, and students to preview screenings to create controversy and use it for promotion. Upon release, Tropic of Cancer faced fierce censorship. In the US, the film was rated X. Joseph Strick later sued the MPAA, arguing that the X rating was a form of artistic punishment but failed. In the UK, the BBFC flatly refused certification for public exhibition in 1970, citing that the film was not only obscene but could corrupt public morals. Extreme reactions spread worldwide. Over half a century later, Tropic of Cancer is now regarded as a pioneering work that dared to challenge moral and linguistic boundaries to reveal the raw truth of humanity. Have you ever seen this film? And what did you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 6. Last Tango in Paris. Have you heard of Bernardo Bertolucci's Last Tango in Paris? If you have seen this film, share your thoughts in the comments below. This is one of the most shocking films of the 1970s, starring Marlon Brando and Maria Schneider as two strangers beginning a passionate, nameless and pastless affair in the heart of Paris. Particularly the infamous butter scene, now regarded as one of the most controversial scenes in cinema history, led to Last Tango in Paris being accused of crossing the line from art into the dangerous territory of offence and abuse. At the time of filming, Maria Schneider, playing Jeanne, was only 19 years old. However, her experience on set became one of the deepest wounds of her life. The scene in which Brando used a stick of butter as a lubricant on Jeanne was not in the script, and she had never been informed beforehand. Bertolucci and Brando decided to add this element on the morning of the shoot, with the purpose, as Bertolucci later admitted, of making Maria react for real, not act. When Schneider later revealed the truth, she said she felt humiliated and partly mentally raped as the scene went far beyond any limits she had agreed to. At that moment, she cried on set, not because of the role, but because of the real trauma. Director Bertolucci later justified hiding the detail from Schneider as a way to capture the innocence, the instinctive reaction of a girl, not a professional actress. But for Schneider, it was nothing less than a betrayal. She said in many interviews that she felt humiliated and abandoned, and that everyone on set knew what was going to happen except me. This role brought Maria Schneider to the height of fame, but also marked the beginning of years of crisis. She became associated with a promiscuous image, harassed by the media, and misunderstood by audiences as a woman willing to do anything. The pressure from public opinion led Schneider into depression. She admitted to drug addiction and feeling completely powerless over her life. 5. The Devils. This is Ken Russell's boldest and most shocking drama in British cinema. Inspired by a real exorcism scandal in 17th century France, the film tells the story of a corrupt cardinal and a convent of nuns engulfed in religious frenzy. When the nuns believe they are possessed, they engage in mad rituals climaxing in the blasphemous sexual acts with Christ scene, where nude nuns kneel and climb the cross in a delirium. This extremity and reversal of religious symbolism terrified British critics and divided the public between those seeing it as a critique of religious fanaticism and those considering it unforgivable offence. The Devils was so shocking that during post-production, Warner Brothers placed a famous note on the film, "Can this film shall never see the light of day." According to Russell and actress Vanessa Redgrave, Warner Brothers was intimidated early on by what they witnessed in the film, feeling it dared to challenge both the church and societal moral boundaries of the 1970s. Another interesting fact is that Oliver Reed, working with a director like Ken Russell, who often changed ideas at the last minute, became extremely angry. Two men with strong egos and extreme creative spirits constantly clashed. At times, Reed and Russell stopped speaking, directly communicating through assistants to avoid arguments. Although the film was eventually released, fierce reactions from audiences and critics made The Devils one of the most censored films of the 20th century. Even Warner Brothers cut many scenes before submitting it to the BBFC, and the board continued demanding further edits to reduce violence, blood, and sexual content. The censored version was approved for release in 1971, but many local councils in the UK refused to screen it, while moral advocacy groups like Mary Whitehouse called for a permanent ban. In the US, the film was rated X and had to cut an additional 6 minutes to receive an R rating. For decades, The Devils was nearly buried, only to see a shortened version re-released in the UK in 1997. Lost scenes have never been fully restored. 4. Pink Flamingos. I can assure you, this is the most shocking film ever made. The story revolves around Divine, the filthiest person alive, living on society's margins with her eccentric family in a trailer. When another perverse couple challenges that title, a who's grosser war begins, leading to a series of immoral, chaotic, and bizarre acts that make viewers question what they are watching. You will certainly be shocked by the scene where Divine eats real dog feces. No special effects, no prop substitutes. It is real feces filmed in a long take as Divine walks and eats it. John Waters said he wanted to make a scene no one else would dare, something that makes the audience vomit but also laugh because they cannot believe it. The behind the scenes of Pink Flamingos is almost legendary in guerrilla filmmaking. The film had a mere $12,000 budget shot on 60mm in Baltimore. The cast consisted of friends, acquaintances, or members of the LGBTQ drag queen and underground artist communities known to Waters. Costumes and props were purchased from Salvation Army thrift stores or homemade. During party scenes, the cast actually inhaled amyl nitrate legal at the time to create a real feeling of intoxication on camera. This chaotic, uncontrollable energy gave the film a vivid and dangerously authentic feel. However, Pink Flamingos also became one of the most censored and banned films of the 20th century. In Australia, it was completely banned upon release in 1976, later released in a censored version, and listed as obscene material until the late 1990s. In the UK, it was not submitted to the BBFC for 17 years due to fear it would be cut beyond recognition. Some illegal VHS copies were seized. Many European countries like Norway, Switzerland, and parts of Canada also banned it, calling it a film against all societal moral standards. Only in 2008, 36 years after production, was Pink Flamingos approved uncut for the 18+ rating. During that time, it became an icon of boundary-pushing cinema influencing many other filmmakers. Have you seen the film, and did you find it disgusting? Share your thoughts in the comments. 3. Monty Python's Life of Brian. With Monty Python's trademark satirical humour, the film does not aim to mock religion or the Bible, but to criticise fanaticism, hypocrisy, and the blind nature of human belief. However, its intelligence and satire made Life of Brian the target of one of the fiercest waves of protest in British film history. Upon release, Life of Brian was heavily criticised by religious organisations, churches and politicians as blasphemous to God. Over 100 local councils in the UK reviewed the film, and many banned it outright. At least 28 councils demanded the rating be raised from AA to X, while 11 councils outright prohibited it. In some areas, such as Cornwall, Surrey, Wales, and especially the town of Harrogate, the film was banned even before formal review, simply due to rumours that it mocked Christ. Opposition also spread to British television and newspapers. Many heated debates took place between Monty Python members and conservatives such as Mary Whitehouse, an icon of the Protect Social Morality movement. Nearly half a century later, Life of Brian has been re-evaluated and recognised as a masterpiece of satirical comedy. In 2019, the BBFC officially downgraded the rating to 12A, meaning children may watch if accompanied by an adult, from a film once deemed blasphemous. 2. The Tin Drum. This film tells the strange and haunting story of Oscar, a 3-year-old boy who suddenly decides to stop growing as a protest against the deceitful and violent adult world. Against the backdrop of rising Nazi Germany, Oscar uses his toy drum as a symbol of resistance while observing human depravity from the perspective of someone forever small. However, the film also shocked audiences with ambiguous sexual content, particularly scenes where prepubescent Oscar engages in intimate acts with a pregnant adult woman. In 1997, nearly 2 decades after the film's release, a judge in Oklahoma, USA, caused an uproar by declaring the tin drum illegal, ordering all copies in the area to be confiscated, and the film banned completely. Dozens of video copies were seized from stores and private homes. The ban was quickly opposed by scholars, lawyers and filmmakers, and upon appeal, the ruling was overturned with the federal court concluding that the tin drum held clear artistic, historical and political value. 1. I Spit on Your Grave. I Spit on Your Grave revolves around Jennifer Hills, a young female writer who leaves the city for the countryside to find inspiration only to be brutally gang-raped by local men. Believed dead, Jennifer survives and returns with terrifying vengeance, systematically hunting, torturing and killing those who harmed her. In the UK, I Spit on Your Grave was never theatrically released and only circulated via illegal VHS tapes. In 2001, when the director officially submitted the film to the British Board of Film Classification, the board required about 7 minutes of cuts. Only after these edits was the film granted an 18+ rating and legally released. The original uncut version remained completely banned in the UK for many years. Looking back at the 1970s, a golden yet chaotic era of cinema, one can see how fragile the line between art and taboo truly was. From A Clockwork Orange, The Exorcist to Salò, or the 120 Days of Sodom directors did not hesitate to enter forbidden territories of morality, religion, and violence to reflect humanity's darkness. Many films were banned for decades, yet it is precisely their dangerous nature that made them unforgettable cultural icons. So among these 15 notorious and banned horror films of the 1970s, which ones have you seen, or which left you most haunted and terrified? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching until the end. And if you enjoy behind-the-scenes stories of shocking, strange and banned films in cinema history, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future episodes on the channel.